Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Dark Gem. With a furious roar, Long Jianan lunged forward like a maddened dragon and shouted, "Rascal! It's all because of you that I'm like this!" Buddha rays erupted from Chinmu's palm like radiant golden waves as he collided with her. Their bodies trembled violently from the clash, and Long Jianan's beautiful hair suddenly scattered across the ground like fallen silk threads, revealing bald patches beneath. At the same moment, the tightly stretched skin on her face slackened abruptly, sagging as though the years she had defied had suddenly come to claim their due. Chinmu's qi and blood surged and churned violently within his body. He was just about to unleash another move when he suddenly froze in place, stunned. He did not continue the attack. On the Eastern Sea back then, Long Jianan had nearly perished under the combined assault of Ling Yuxiu and Si Yunxiang. In desperation, she had forced herself to shed her skin, but that act had consumed the very essence of her lifespan. Though Dao Master had taken her away afterward, her vitality had yet to recover. Now, as she clashed with Chinmu, the wig upon her head had already fallen apart, and the skin that had once been pulled tight could no longer hold its shape. Long Jianan noticed strands of hair falling away and cried out in shock. She frantically grabbed here and there, trying to collect the fallen locks. Each time she caught a handful of hair, she desperately attempted to press it back onto her scalp, but since the wig had already come apart, how could she possibly piece it back together again? Sister Long, you don't have much of your lifespan remaining. If you refrain from risking your life in battle, you can still live as an ordinary person for several dozen years. But if you insist on making a move against me, I won't even need to kill you. A single severe injury would be enough to ensure you have no chance of survival. Chinmu shook his head and said calmly, "It is impossible for you to take revenge on me in this lifetime anymore. So what is the meaning of all this? You are the one who reduced me to this miserable state, and yet you still dare to mock me." Long Jianan shouted in rage, "You brought this upon yourself and your father, and the Dragon King is also someone who harmed you. I am not responsible for it. Pushing the blame onto me is nothing more than you trying to find someone to vent your anger upon." Chinmu glanced down at the thick and sturdy legs standing beside him, and then slowly raised his head to look upward. The towering god was currently gazing down toward the world below, yet not at them. Instead, his eyes were surveying the vast terrain of the Eternal Peace Empire. It was clear that the god paid them no attention whatsoever and considered them completely harmless. In his eyes, their only value lay in helping him rear his dragons. Chinmu steadied his mind and secretly calculated his chances of escape if he were to unleash the technique Heaven Pilfering Divine Legs. Yet almost immediately he dismissed the thought. Although Heaven Pilfering Divine Legs were incomparably swift and could allow him to exceed the speed of sound fourfold or even greater if he used his full strength, he could only sustain that state for an extremely short period of time. In 7 minutes, his vital qi would be completely exhausted, and his body would collapse as well. Judging by the terrifying speed of the two flood dragons beneath the god's feet, even if Chinmu managed to create some distance between them, it would not be difficult for those dragons to catch up to him the moment his speed faltered. Furthermore, the useless dragon, Qilin, lay paralyzed on the ground and could not stand no matter how much he struggled. If Chinmu had to carry the dragon Qilin on his back while fleeing, the distance he could cover would be greatly limited. The dragon Qilin was simply far too fat and far too heavy. Isn't it just raising a dragon? I raise fatty dragon every single day, so it should be simple for me. Chinmu sat down cross-legged atop the body of a flood dragon beneath him. With skill in his hands, he felt no fear. If he could even manage to raise fatty dragon properly, how could he possibly fail at raising flood dragons? "How should we address Senior?" Chinmu asked loudly. "You may call me Dragon-Rearing Sovereign." The god's voice boomed like rolling thunder as he spoke while continuing to survey the surroundings. "I am a god from high heavens. As long as you serve my dragons well, I will spare your lives. Not only that, I will even bring you away from this mortal world to the high heavens so that you may enjoy life while raising my dragons." Long Jianan's eyes immediately lit up with excitement, and she shouted loudly, "Founder, I am a disciple of Dragon Rider Sect." "Dragon Rider Sect is the sect that you founded." Chinmu suddenly shivered as a chill ran down his spine. Crap! This dragon-rearing sovereign is the founder of Dragon Rider sect. He could not help regretting asking the god how to address him. Now that Long Jiaonan had revealed their connection, he was surely doomed. He wanted to flee, yet no matter how much he kicked the dragon Qilin, the fat creature simply lay there limply on the ground, completely unable to stand. I'm skilled in a specialized area. I'm skilled in a specialized area. Qinmu repeatedly consoled himself while forcing himself to calm down. Dragon Rider sect? The two dragons beneath dragon-rearing sovereign's feet paused in midair as the god lowered his head to look at Long Jiaonan. With a puzzled expression, he said, I indeed founded that sect, but that happened a very long time ago. Creating Dragon Rider sect was merely something I did out of interest back then. So after ascending to high heavens, I never bothered with it again. You say you are a disciple of Dragon Rider sect? Who was the fool who just called you his son earlier? Long Jiaonan felt both shocked and delighted. She immediately knelt down and kowtowed deeply. That is this disciple's father, the current Dragon Rider sect master. His cultivation is so weak that I flicked him away with a single motion. He won't die, though. The two dragons beneath dragon-rearing sovereign's feet slowly descended through the air as he continued. Since you are a disciple of Dragon Rider sect, I will not make things difficult for you. Your vital chi seems to be severely damaged, so take this dragon bead and use it to nurture yourself. Although it will not restore your beauty to its former appearance, it can replenish your vitality and extend your lifespan. A bright orange bead flew down from above, and Long Jiaonan quickly caught it. She then kowtowed repeatedly while saying sternly, Founder, that man is the nemesis of our Dragon Rider sect, the one person who eradicated it. Qinmu immediately shrank his neck back and shook his head repeatedly. Maiden Long, please do not wrongly accuse an innocent person. Look at my cultivation level. How could I possibly eradicate your Dragon Rider sect? It is such a vast sacred ground with as many experts as hairs on a cow. Every one of them possesses remarkable abilities and extraordinary skills. Moreover, the dragons they raise are all powerful beings. How could I possibly have the ability to wipe them out? Dragon-rearing sovereign examined him carefully. He saw only a very honest-looking youth who appeared far more trustworthy than Long Jiaonan. This honest child, who looks as weak as a chicken, managed to eradicate the sect that I founded? Are you people really that weak? Long Jiaonan gritted her teeth fiercely and shouted, This brat summoned a devil god who slaughtered my entire sect. With an innocent expression, Qinmu stammered as he defended himself. When did I ever do such a thing? Ever since I was young, I have studied the art of healing and am praised everywhere as a divine physician. Every day I prescribe medicine and raise a dragon Qilin, feeding him until he became this plump. How could I possibly summon a devil god to harm others? Not only are you slandering me, you are even insulting me. Long Jiaonan was furious beyond words and leapt forward to grab him by the throat. She screeched, You are the heavenly devil cult master, and your mind is filled with evil schemes to harm people. You are the devil among devils. Qinmu could not breathe and his eyes rolled upward. Suddenly, dragon-rearing sovereign flicked his finger lightly, sending Long Jiaonan tumbling backwards several times. She crashed heavily onto the ground, and only then did she realize that they had already descended to the surface. The two flood dragons beneath dragon-rearing sovereign's feet had carried them all the way down to Gold River. Are you the one who fed this dragon of the Qilin breed until he became so plump? Dragon-rearing sovereign lifted Qinmu up in his enormous palm and examined him from head to toe. He smiled and said, You have fed him well. Not bad. I like you very much. When Qinmu stood before him, his heart trembled violently. Dragon-rearing sovereign was simply too enormous. His face alone towered higher than Qinmu's entire body. His whole body was covered in dragon scales, and only the raised ridge of his brow remained bare. Instead, 2 eyebrows shaped like feathers grew there. Senior. Qinmu gathered his courage and spoke. I have studied the art of healing since I was young, and my medical techniques are fairly passable. I feed my dragon Qilin half a bucket of Scarlet Fire Spirit Pills every single day. Half a bucket of Scarlet Fire Spirit Pills? Dragon-rearing sovereign chuckled. It seems your pill refining technique is truly extraordinary if you can refine so many spirit pills every day. But how could a young fellow with a childlike body such as his require half a bucket daily? A single bowl of scarlet fire spirit pills would already be sufficient. Chinmu's face immediately darkened completely. Dragon-rearing Sovereign then continued. However, the pills he consumed were not wasted. They have transformed into dragon and Qilin vitality stored within his body. Once that power awakens, he will be able to cultivate a dragon bead and Qilin fire, both of which are extraordinary abilities. Only then can he be considered to have truly matured. I see that, although you know how to refine pills, you do not understand the art of raising dragons. Are you willing to learn from me? Disciple is willing. Long Jiaonan was furious beyond measure. That black-hearted scoundrel was actually taking advantage of this moment to climb above her and become a disciple of her founder. I asked if you wanted to learn from me, not if you wanted to become my disciple. You are merely a small boy. Dragon-rearing Sovereign smiled faintly and said, Do not rush to pay respects, for I am not accepting disciples. However, if you serve my dragons well, it will not be impossible for me to accept you as my disciple in the future. Now, refine a furnace of scarlet fire spirit pills for me, so I may take a look. Chinmu immediately burst forth with vital qi and drew out several herbs from his Tao Ti sack. With swift and practiced movements, he refined the pills directly in midair. While Dragon-rearing Sovereign was still speaking, Chinmu had already finished refining a single scarlet fire spirit pill. Dragon-rearing Sovereign revealed a look of astonishment that soon turned into great delight. Laughing heartily, he said, I will take you in. This will spare me from numerous mundane tasks. From today onward, you shall be responsible for refining pills. Then I can relax. He lifted his leg and gave the dragon Qilin a kick, saying, Little fellow, I shall teach you the method to cultivate the dragon bead and the Qilin fire so that you may help ignite the flames needed to refine pills. The dragon Qilin finally managed to stand up. He was both shocked and overjoyed. Chinmu's mood immediately brightened. Grandpa Deaf always said that studying was the most respectable pursuit, while Grandpa Apothecary's art of healing was useless. One mistaken diagnosis and you might even have to compensate the patient until you go bankrupt. Compared to that, studying and painting could allow you to earn a living anywhere. Yet in the end, Grandpa Deaf nearly starved to death while selling his paintings on the streets, while Grandpa Apothecary's medical skills allow me to live comfortably wherever I go. Little girl, come over. Long Jiaonan lowered her head and walked forward so that Dragon-rearing Sovereign could examine her carefully. He shook his head and said, You know a few techniques of raising dragons as well, so you shall serve as his attendant and help me raise my dragons. Remember this, do not slander him again, or I will not forgive you. Long Jiaonan burned with fury, yet she had no choice but to nod in agreement. Seeing this, Chinmu asked with curiosity, What is Dragon Sovereign doing here at Gold River? Searching for the main dragon's vein of Eternal Peace Empire. An earring hanging from Dragon-rearing Sovereign's ear suddenly swayed before slithering downward and transforming into a yellow flood dragon. Its body lengthened endlessly as it plunged into the river, its aura growing more terrifying with every passing moment. The current of Gold River surged violently, and the moment the flood dragon entered the water, it began to wreak havoc. The river instantly rose into the sky, forming a vast flowing river suspended above the heavens. This is where the abdomen of the Gold River dragon lies, and its claws are nearby as well. Dragon rearing. Sovereign gazed down toward the bottom of the river before shaking his head with disappointment. This place is not the main dragon's vein. Chinmu also lowered his gaze toward the riverbed and felt slightly stunned. The rushing current had washed away the mud and stones, revealing rocks that resembled fragments of dragon scales. Following their arrangement, he could faintly make out shapes that looked exactly like claws. A river possesses river qi, which gathers to form a dragon vein of water. When mountain qi gathers, it forms a dragon vein of land. When fire qi, such as magma, gathers, it forms a dragon vein of fire. These are the dragon veins that people commonly understand. However, there exists a fourth kind of dragon vein, which is wind. The wind blows across tens of thousands of miles, carving the traces of a dragon among mountains and plains. Dragon-rearing Sovereign raised his head toward the sky and said in a low voice, I have already inspected the wind veins and the mountain veins. Mud River and Gold River have also been examined. If I continue onward, I must inspect the 3 fire dragon veins that lie underground. With the Eternal Peace Empire possessing so many dragon veins, I fear that a great dragon is about to emerge. But if I seize the main dragon vein, then all the dragons will lose their leader. And when that happens, the entire world will fall into utter chaos. Translate Ninetales. Editor Dark Gem. The Eternal Peace Empire truly seems plagued by endless calamities. First came mutiny and rebellion, then descended the wrath of natural disasters. After that, the Barbarian Empire joined forces with Wolfstore Country to launch their invasion, and now a dragon-rearing sovereign has appeared, seeking to seize the Empire's main dragon vein. Qinmu released a quiet sigh within his heart. Emperor Yanfeng's burden as ruler was truly immense, and time and again, Qinmu himself had been dragged into the endless turmoil to clean up the mess. The Sunshot Divine Cannon I forged should be capable of slaying this dragon-rearing sovereign. Yet the battery remains in the capital, and Emperor Yanfeng is nowhere nearby. Suddenly, Qinmu halted in his thoughts, his mind struck by a realization. He had never truly belonged to the Eternal Peace Empire. Why then should he gamble his life for its sake? When he first stepped out from the Great Ruins, his purpose had been simple: gain experience, temper his abilities, and grow stronger. His journey had never been meant to protect the Eternal Peace Empire. So when had his original purpose changed without him even realizing it? Not long ago, he had regarded the Eternal Peace Empire as an enemy. After all, the Empire had abandoned the people of the Great Ruins, leaving them to be treated as nothing more than slaves. When had his thoughts shifted? When had he begun to regard the affairs of the Empire as his own concerns? Wasn't he supposed to be traveling to gain experience? Wasn't he supposed to struggle for the survival of the Great Ruins people? And yet, when had he unconsciously begun to treat the Eternal Peace Empire like a second home? When had he begun to regard its troubles as his own burdens? He gazed inward, examining the depths of his heart. There, he discovered a truth both cruel and fascinating. The complexities and transformations of the human heart far surpass the changes found within cultivation paths, martial skills, or divine arts. Qinmu quietly reflected upon himself. His heart remained calm. As the human emperor, he did not act for the sake of the Eternal Peace Empire itself, but for the sake of the people who lived upon that land. If Emperor Yanfeng proved cruel or incompetent, Qinmu would simply replace him. If the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor failed in his grand reforms, Qinmu would take over the task and carry the reforms forward himself. Yet if the reforms were beneficial, but Emperor Yanfeng ever dared to invade the Great Ruins and enslave its people, then Qinmu would still remove him without hesitation. Qinmu blinked his eyes. To him, the matter was simple and pure. We've arrived. The 2 dragons beneath dragon-rearing sovereign suddenly halted in midair, their immense bodies pausing as if the heavens themselves had commanded stillness. Qinmu raised his gaze and looked around, slightly stunned. Towering volcanoes rose everywhere across the land. Thick columns of smoke poured endlessly from their mouths, drifting across the sky like dark banners. Yet strangely, no lava erupted from their depths. From time to time, Qi cultivators could be seen climbing the mountains, gathering underground fire that they used to cultivate powerful fire-based divine arts. This region was Volcano County of the Eternal Peace Empire. It had earned its name because countless volcanoes filled its territory. Nearly 90% of the Empire's volcanoes were gathered here. Among them stood the greatest of all, Great White Mountain. It towered into the heavens, its peak blanketed in snow, even as molten lava bubbled within its volcanic mouth. Dragon-rearing sovereign swept his gaze across the landscape until it landed upon Great White Mountain. He smiled faintly. The dragon's eyes lie there. The 2 dragons beneath his feet rose into the sky and carried him toward the mountain's summit. At the peak stood a sect. Unlike the 3 great sacred grounds of the Eternal Peace Empire, this sect had suffered tremendous pressure in recent years. The rise of primary schools and colleges throughout the empire had caused their number of disciples to plummet. This sect was known as the Great White Sword Sect. Their population was sparse, with barely 100 disciples remaining upon the mountain. Dragon rearing. Sovereign descended directly onto the summit, bringing Qin and Long Jionan with him. He arrived at the hinterland of the Great White Sword Sect, the forbidden entrance to the volcano itself. The experts of the Sword Sect were immediately alarmed. They rushed out in a swarm, like startled bees. Yet when they saw the dragon-rearing sovereign standing among his dragons, every one of them froze in place, stunned into silence, none daring to move. One of the fire flood dragons beneath dragon-rearing sovereign suddenly flew forward and plunged straight into the volcano. Moments later, a passage was forcibly carved open. Multicolored light burst forth from the volcano's depths, shooting into the sky and bathing the heavens in golden radiance. Qin looked into the volcano and nearly became dizzy from the sight. The interior of the volcano was not lava at all. Instead, the entire interior was formed from radiant dragon scales, each one gleaming with brilliant golden light. The scaled passage stretched deep within the mountain, descending endlessly toward unknown depths. The disciples of the Great White Sword Sect were equally stunned. Their sect had occupied this mountain for thousands of years, yet they had never known that such a mysterious world lay hidden within the volcano. Still, none of them dared to move. Senior, the sect leader of the Great White Sword Sect, finally gathered his courage and stepped forward. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, the massive dragons beneath dragon-rearing sovereign lifted into the air once more, carrying him, along with Qin and Long Jiaonan, straight into the volcano. Sect leader, those people barged straight into the forbidden ground of our sword sect, a middle-aged man shouted in alarm. What should we do now? The face of the sect leader shifted between pale and dark. Finally he said, I recognize that youth just now. That is the heavenly devil cult master. He drew in a deep breath. That old devil has actually brought along such a terrifying expert, someone who has raised so many dragons. The sacred ground of the Devil Path truly lives up to its reputation. Their foundation is terrifyingly deep. He looked around at his fellow disciples. Our Great White Sword Sect is no match for them. What else can we do? He raised his voice firmly. Of course we will file a complaint with the Imperial Court. Everyone in the Sword Sect stared at him in shock. File a complaint to the Imperial Court? Wasn't that somewhat embarrassing? If we present our grievance to the Imperial Court, the Emperor and the Imperial Preceptor cannot simply ignore it, the sect leader said as he rose to his feet. I will personally travel to the capital and submit an Imperial appeal. I will certainly demand that the Heavenly Devil cult give our Great White Sword Sect an explanation. Deep within the volcano, Qin and Long Jiaonan followed behind dragon-rearing sovereign, observing the vast underground cavern surrounding them. The walls were entirely formed from radiant dragon scales. Qin reached out and touched one. The scale was scorching hot, almost like molten magma, yet not quite the same. Perhaps this truly is the main dragon vein, dragon-rearing sovereign said thoughtfully. The dragon chi gathering beneath the earth here is about to transform into a divine dragon and soar into the heavens. He paused before adding with surprise, this dragon vein even appears slightly superior to the 9 mountain veins beneath Eternal Peace Capital. Qin asked curiously, Dragon Sovereign has visited the 9 dragon veins beneath the capital? What were they like? Although Qin had visited the capital many times, he had never gone to inspect the surrounding mountains. The capital city was encircled by 9 dragons, and the dragon chi within that region was exceptionally dense. People living there often enjoyed longer lifespans and cultivated twice as fast. Nowhere was this more evident than at the Imperial College and the Imperial Palace, where dragon chi gathered in its most concentrated form. The dragon veins beneath Eternal Peace Capital City take the form of 9 yellow dragons, dragon-rearing sovereign explained. When I entered the mountains, I discovered that the interior of each mountain had already been hollowed out. The dragons within have transformed into chi that possesses scales and claws. However, they are still merely chi. They have not yet formed true bodies. He gestured toward the cavern around them. The fire dragon here, however, is nearly complete. Qin frowned slightly in confusion. Long Jiaonan touched the dragon scales along the cavern wall and asked, Founder, does this mean that the dragon scales of this dragon vein are real scales rather than mere patterns? Of course they are real dragon scales. Dragon-rearing sovereign replied calmly. Flood dragons are not true dragons. They are simply enormous serpents that absorbed dragon chi and underwent transformation. A true dragon is born directly from chi. It emerges from the dragon veins themselves. All living creatures in the world are born from eggs or from the womb. But true dragons are born from chi. Chi first gives birth to a true dragon, and only then do eggs or offspring appear. You have visited the Great Ruins before, correct? There are countless ruins of dragon kings scattered throughout that land. Do you know why there were so many dragon kings there? His voice deepened. In ancient times, the Great Ruins possessed hundreds of dragon veins. Their destiny flourished to such an extent that those veins transformed into true dragons. Chinmu's heart trembled violently. Hundreds of dragon veins. Prosperous destiny. Dragon veins transforming into true dragons. He had indeed seen a Dragon King temple within the basin of the East Sea. And there was another in Surging River. There was even a temple dedicated to the Well Dragon King. Could it be that those Dragon Kings had all once been true dragons? Those true dragons, born from the dragon veins of the Great Ruins, eventually surrendered their allegiance to the dragon-rearing sovereign abruptly cut himself off, as if wary of saying too much. Instead, he continued calmly. The Eternal Peace Empire is still small in comparison. At present, it possesses perhaps 10 to 20 dragon veins. However, to avoid future trouble, I must locate the main dragon vein. If the empire continues to grow unchecked, it might eventually bring about another great calamity. Therefore, the proper course of action is simple. Find the main dragon vein and kill it. They continued deeper. Suddenly, a deep, muffled dragon's roar echoed through the cavern. Chinmu's spirit immediately stirred. Could this fire dragon vein truly be about to transform into a real dragon? Yet when they advanced further, Chinmu realized the sound did not come from a dragon. Instead, it originated from a vast underground magma river stretching dozens of miles across. The surrounding walls were entirely covered with gleaming golden dragon scales, dazzling the eyes with their brilliance. An immense surge of dragon chi filled the cavern. Chinmu had cultivated the Ling family's 9 Dragons Monarch technique, and his attainments in dragon chi were already quite high. He immediately realized something shocking. The dragon chi here was no weaker than that found in the capital. In the capital, the chi of 9 dragon veins gathered together. Yet here, only a single fire dragon vein existed, and still its power matched that immense concentration. Could this truly be the location of the Eternal Peace Empire's main dragon vein? Strange. Dragon-rearing sovereign frowned while examining both the upstream and downstream flow of the magma river. Something is wrong. The path of the dragon vein here seems incorrect. He stepped down from the backs of the 2 flood dragons. Chinmu glanced at his feet. They were not human feet at all. They were dragon claws. Dragon-rearing sovereign then produced a small golden cauldron. To him it appeared delicate and compact. But to Chinmu, the cauldron was large enough to boil 2 or 3 people alive. Dragon-rearing. Sovereign scooped magma into the cauldron before taking out some golden powder and sprinkling it inside. Then he waited silently. Chinmu stepped closer and observed the cauldron. The golden powder gradually fused with the magma and began to change. Dragon-rearing sovereign tossed him a golden book along with a Tauti sack. The dragon vein here is strange. It may not be an ordinary dragon vein at all, he said. I will cast a spell to investigate what secrets lie hidden here. You will refine several furnaces of pills to feed the dragons. There are prescriptions in that book. Do not make any mistakes. Chinmu nodded in understanding. The golden book was titled Dragon-Rearing Scripture. As he flipped through its pages, he discovered that it recorded numerous methods for raising dragons. It described different dragon species, their habits, their attributes, and the techniques required to control them. Finally, it detailed the types of spirit pills each dragon preferred to eat. Chinmu did not care much about the pills themselves. What fascinated him were the methods of pill refinement. Apothecary had taught him countless hand techniques for refining pills, yet the dragon-rearing scripture contained many techniques he had never encountered before. As expected of the god who raises dragons, Chinmu thought, there are truly many pill refining methods recorded here. From the prescriptions and techniques alone, Chinmu judged that dragon-rearing sovereign's skill in pill refinement might be only slightly inferior to his own. Chinmu became cautious. If he wanted to refine a deadly poison capable of killing dragon-rearing sovereign, it would likely not be easy. He quietly dismissed the thought and continued studying the book. Different dragons consume different spirit pills. For example, the dragon Qilin possessed a fire attribute, so Scarlet Fire spirit pills suited it very well. Yet when Chinmu examined the details more carefully, he discovered that Scarlet Fire spirit pills were not truly the most suitable pill. They simply tasted the best. The pill that truly suited the dragon Qilin best was the Fire Element Divine Vitality pill. It could accelerate their growth and drastically increase their sprinting speed. Unfortunately, the Divine Vitality pill did not taste good. It was rather spicy. No wonder that glutton always demands Scarlet Fire spirit pills, and so many of them. Chinmu's expression darkened. He glanced at the dragon Qilin, who was curiously looking around. Then Chinmu said coldly, "Maid, come here. Help me refine pills." Long Jiaonan gritted her teeth and walked forward, wishing she could devour him in a single bite. Chinmu kicked the dragon Qilin. "Fatty dragon, have you ever heard of Fire Element Divine Vitality pill?" "I have never heard of it before," the dragon Qilin replied guiltily. Chinmu snorted. He opened dragon-rearing sovereign's touty sack. Inside were countless varieties of spirit herbs. Chinmu quickly sorted them before tossing them toward Long Jiaonan and instructing her to prepare the herbs according to the prescription. Then he ordered the dragon Qilin to breathe fire. As Chinmu began refining pills, his hands executed a dazzling sequence of pill-refining techniques. His fingers moved with incredible speed, forming countless hand seals. Soon, batch after batch of spirit pills emerged from the furnace. The many small dragons coiled around dragon-rearing sovereign's body caught the fragrance of the pills. They immediately crawled down his body and gathered around Chinmu. Some dragons were 3 yards long. Others were no longer than a single inch. Dragons of every size, color, and species raised their heads and stared at Chinmu. Chinmu felt his scalp tingle. He dared not move. Most of these dragons were flood dragons, but every one of them possessed terrifying strength. To kill him would be easier than brushing away dust. Dragon-rearing sovereign continued casting his spell, breathing a stream of vital qi into the golden cauldron. The golden powder fused with the magma and began to transform. "Place the spirit pills into the basin," he said calmly. "They will eat by themselves." Chinmu looked toward Long Jiaonan. She rummaged through the touty sack and retrieved an enormous basin. It was 30 yards across. Calling it a basin was hardly accurate. It looked more like a small pond. Chinmu poured all the spirit pills into the basin. Dozens of dragons immediately dove inside, swimming among the pills while playing and frolicking. The dragon Qilin stood beside Chinmu, wagging his tail impatiently. Chinmu brought out another large basin and poured in Scarlet Fire spirit pills. Among them, he secretly mixed more than a dozen Fire Element Divine Vitality pills. The dragon Qilin was overjoyed and rushed forward to eat. However, Chinmu soon saw the dragon Qilin secretly picking out the Fire Element Divine Vitality pills and quietly tossing them into the nearby magma river. Chinmu became furious. "Maid, this fellow is picky about his food. Beat him for me." Long Jiaonan exploded with rage. She struck Chinmu with a punch, knocking him to the ground. Then she sat on him and began beating him viciously. "I've tolerated you for long enough. I'll beat you to death." Dragon-rearing sovereign flicked a finger. Long Jiaonan was instantly sent flying. She crashed into the dragon scale wall and vomited blood from the impact. Dragon-rearing sovereign shook his head. "You are the master. How can you allow your maid to beat you like this? What kind of example is that?" Chinmu crawled back to his feet, looking embarrassed. "I am still in the 6 Directions realm, while she is already in the 7 Stars realm," he explained. "And Dragon Sovereign even gave her a dragon bead. She is full of brute strength now. I cannot defeat her." "I see." Dragon-rearing sovereign took out a dragon bead and tossed it to Chinmu. "I cannot help you improve your cultivation realm," he said. "But I possess many dragon beads. I will give you a better one." The dragon bead I gave her is merely a toy, taken from a mixed-blood dragon at the Divine Bridge realm. This dragon bead is also from a Divine Bridge realm beast, but its bloodline is far purer, much closer to a true dragon. If she tries to beat you again, you can send her flying with a single punch. Chinmu caught the dragon bead. The moment it touched his palm, a savage power flooded through his entire body. His strength surged wildly. Joy filled his heart. Long Jianen's face turned pale. Was this still her founder? He was favoring Chinmu so much that it seemed as if he were Chinmu's own master. The secret behind this dragon vein has already been discovered, Dragon-rearing Sovereign said coldly as he lifted the golden cauldron. This is not the main dragon vein. It is merely one of its branches, stationed here to guard the others. And furthermore, this main dragon vein appears to be connected to the dragon veins within the Great Ruins. Chinmu stepped forward to look. Inside the cauldron, golden dragons swam through the magma. They surrounded a central figure. There, a massive and menacing dragon lay coiled in deep slumber. The remnants of the Great Ruins truly possess extraordinary methods, Dragon-rearing Sovereign sneered. They transferred the destiny of the Great Ruins to the Eternal Peace Empire. They intend to use the fate of 2 dynasties to give birth to a true Dragon Lord. Hey, I will seize this true Dragon Lord's vein today. I will destroy their master plan of tens of thousands of years in a single stroke. Let us see how they cry to heaven and earth.